Hi everyone, I'm Marie and we are coming to you live from Living Felt because it's Happy Woolly Wednesday! Oh, happy Wednesday, even if it's Thursday where you are. And thank you so much for being here. We're having fun watching you check in. We are Living Felt based in Central Texas. If you've stumbled across this feed or landed here on purpose, thank you so much. This is our live show, and today we are going to be looking at how to Nuno felt some really nice custom pillows or textiles for your home. You could turn those into table runners or other things like that, so it's a really fun little project. And yeah, so looking forward to sharing that with you. It's really simple, and we're going to take a super straightforward approach. So I want to say hi to a few folks. Hi to Maureen in Canada, Bonnie Roberts in Louisiana, Helen in Russell, Tammy in South Carolina. Thanks y'all so much for being here. I've seen some of our friends checking in from across the pond, including Laura Stidham, who's on vacation in the UK. So nice to have you all here. Pamela in Oregon, Cindy in California, Lynn Lewis is here too. Thank y'all so much. Okay, so y'all know how this works. Say hi to the new folks. If it's your first show, say I'm new, or it's your first live feed. Everything's going on over in the chat, wherever that is. Right now, it's still over there. And you get a chance to win prizes. So I see people already helping each other in chat, answering and asking questions, which is fabulous. And you get entered to win prizes. But if you're watching the replay, you can comment after the live show, and you get entered to win also. So I'm giving away two prizes right now to Bonnie Roberts and Suzanne Hebert. I think they're both from Louisiana, which is just across the border. Congratulations. Y'all will win a couple of prizes, one that I'm going to show you in just a minute, or a little wet felting activity kit. So congratulations. And for today's project, the fairies have picked out some wonderful things that you might like to see. And the first up is the very charming fairy, Alyssa. Yay!
Hello everybody! Today I'm here to show you our 19.5 micron merino top. I gathered these colors. I thought they would be good since we're making home textiles. These are some good options for that. Okay, so here I have burnt orange, prairie, mushroom, midnight, teal, pumpkin, copper, slate, sand dollar, and mulberry. And up next is Fairy Angela.
Woohoo! Hey everyone! So today's tutorial is wet felting, but if you would rather needle felt a pillowcase, we have a kit for that. This is our Given Pumpkin to Talk About kit. So it comes with the linen, the wool fiber, the instructions and pattern, everything you'd need for this. Needles and foam are sold separately, and you will have to buy your own pillow to put on the insert. But this is available now, and up next is the wonderful Jamie.
Woo! Hi everyone, I'm Jamie and I'm here to show you guys the Hello Pumpkin kit. It has, if you're not, if you're not as into or don't know necessarily how to do needle felting as well in the 2D format, this is a good one to start with before you go and make your own pumpkin pillow. It comes with either a 2D pumpkin, you can make it into like a little magnet, or even a card. And next up is going to be Fairy Marie.
I'm back, but that's not all the fairies. Of course, we have with us today the very funny fairy in the field, Fairy Kayla.
Hi everybody, happy Woolly Wednesday. I'm so glad to be back. I'm super thankful for Fairy Rayla, who made her debut a few weeks ago. Thank you so much, Fairy Rayla, you did an awesome job. Just wanted to pop in really quick before the show and share some funniness with you as always. So, question. Why did the teacher jump into the pool?
Why did the teacher jump into the pool?
Because they wanted to test the waters. Thank you so much, everybody. Have fun felting today, and I'll see you next week.
Oh, thanks, Mary Kayla, and thanks you all for putting up with our antics. We just like to cook out here and have as much fun as we can while we fill your orders, answer your calls, answer your emails, and make fun stuff with you. So thank you so much for joining us today, and thanks to all the fairies for helping to make everything we do happen. They answer your phone calls, your emails, pack your orders, and make everything that we sell. So thank y'all for being here. Let's look really quickly a little bit more closely at today's project. Today we are making these pillows. I like to felt a pillow face. So these are the fabrics on the pillow face. And I like to sew it to the back, but look at this fun texture you get from using these silk fabrics. I'm going to show you a new product we have that you might like to play with for creating a project like this. But I like to get a nice square pillow and sew fabric onto the back and make a nice envelope pillow. So rather than felting over resist, I like to really control everything about the size and the shape in my pillow. And if you're interested in that as well, there is a PDF you can download for today's project, which just goes over the same supplies that I'm about to share with you. And then we have a little guide on making an envelope pillow back. And we also include that with the Hello or Pumpkin to Talk About pillows. But it's just a guide for creating that little envelope pillow if you don't want to insert a zipper and you don't want to wet felt over a resist. That's totally an option. So we're making the base fabric, and I want to go over the supplies with you that we are using. Please do ask your questions in the chat. I think we're going to have plenty of time today to answer any questions that you have. I'm going to be working with merino top, pre-felt, and silk fabrics. Let's look first at the pre-felt. We have two types of pre-felt here in the shop. And here on the table, I have two of these pre-felts. This dark blue one is our PFM, and this rust-colored one is our PFL. Both of these products are 19 micron, but what's different about them, if you've not used them yet, is the PFL one is a wider fabric, so all the cuts are going to be a little bit bigger than the PFM. But the fiber is also a little more compressed, and you have to treat it like one layer. It doesn't peel apart like the PFM does. It's very soft. It's made from the full length of the natural fiber. It's very smooth, and it handles really well while it's still being in the pre-felt stage. So you do need to wet felt this product. The PFM is completely different. This is Midnight. This is burnt orange PFL. It is very lofty and loose. If you've seen, we've used this in our artful felt fabric. We've used it in making journals. We used it in making our paper thin felt fabric and our fortune cookies. It's very delicate, and it can be peeled apart. It's not really designed for that, but that is how these two look differently. So when you order, if you were to order one PFM and one PFL, don't be surprised if they're different lengths, because the PFL is a wider width fabric than this one. One's a little more lofty, and one's a little more compressed. Now this product is also made from a short fiber, so you have more fibers grabbing up onto whatever you're felting, and this one is long. They both wet felt beautifully, and they both need to be wet felted to finish it into the final fabric. So if you have any questions about the pre-felt that we carry, go ahead and ask that. But today we are working with our 19.5 micron. We're also working with the merino top that Alyssa showed you, which is our 19.5 micron, and today I've chosen coordinating colors. But I would like to show you our new product, which we call they're called Sari Party, and they are a collection of sari silks that are hand selected, in this case by me personally. These are fabrics that are from vintage saris, and what we've created for you is a collection of fabrics from different color families. So we call them Sari Party, and this one is Born to be Wild, Light My Fire, Magic Carpet Ride, Blue Bayou, and Green Eyed Lady. We had a lot of fun naming these as a team. We chose songs because we're kooks. This one is a collection of browns, blacks, and earthy tones, warm tones, a lot of purples and berries going on here, a lot of blues, and a lot of greens. Now, these are all vintage saris that have been cut, and I'll just show you the size. They might vary a little bit, but for each, you're going to be getting a cut about this size to work with. And they will vary to some degree. It really depends on the sari. So this is a really fun way to play. They're about 18 inches by about 11 inches. They might be as small as 9 inches, but they're all these beautiful widths and approximate lengths and pre-packed assortments. So on the website, you will find those under the silks and fabrics. And they're called Sari Party, and we've given you a little video intro on each one, and these collections will change over time. This is our first time offering them, so as we get in a new batch, the patterns will change, and we'll do our best to represent them. But these are vintage fabrics. They're going to be varying weights, varying textures, and so doing projects like the one we're doing today is a great way to make a little sample or make a little test and see how they felt for use in a larger project, or even just to familiarize yourself with felting with silk fabrics in general. So for today, we are going to be working with these two pre-felts. We're going to make a small little sample together so you learn how to do it. We are working with these two colors of merino top, and then these are the silk fabrics that we chose for today's project, an orange and two turquoise fabrics. Now, a couple of people have already been talking about in the chat, what is Nuno felting? And Nuno, you can say Nuno or Nuno, it doesn't really matter, but it is when we bind fibers with fabric through the wet felting process. Very often we use silk fabrics because it's a natural fabric and it's got a nice open weave. Not in all cases. Silks can get heavier and heavier, but it's really popular for wet felting with. Usually it's very also a nice lightweight fabric, but you could work with an open weave scrim like a cheesecloth or even other cotton fabrics for Nuno felting with. Let's look quickly again. Should we look at the pillows? Sure. Let's look at the pillows that we're going to be felting today. And I want to show you the difference between the two. So the one on the left is rectangular. It's about I think about a 19 by 14 pillow. And the blue one, the difference is I topped the blue one by trimming each fabric with fiber, but on the orange one, I did not. And that's what we're going to do today in our sample. And I encourage you to make your own samples and try whatever you like in this process. So the first thing we want to do is, to get started for today, is set up our workstation. It's minimal and very simple. We're going to start with a towel on our tabletop, a sheet of bubble wrap larger than your project, a bowl of room temperature water, soap, a sponge, a wetting agent, a hand towel. I like to get my soap started in my water and just get that a little bit soapy, and my sponge as well. And we're going to use a pool noodle, some mesh, and plastic sheeting. So get your workstation set up and ready to go. And you're going to also prepare your materials. So you're going to want to cut your pre-felt to size and even plan out how you want to lay out your silks. Now, this is some trimmings from my silks. Let's look at this together just for a second. In these silks, save all of these trims. Your sari silks are going to come with whatever decorative edging is included in that particular part of the sari, and may include some of these heavily embroidered or brocade trims. My suggestion is to trim them off, and if you want to test their feltability, use them in a very small test like this. We'll talk about troubleshooting things that don't stick, but you can also use these as embellishment in other projects. You can hand stitch them on at the end. You can use them in junk journals, in gifting, or whatever. So trim off, I would say, these heavy brocaded ends until you've tested them, because there's going to be variance across these silk fabrics. And you're even going to find there may be in your batch some with tears, wear holes, little discolorations. That's part of a fabric that's had a whole entire life, and now you're going to give it a new life. So get your fabrics how you want them. And my suggestion is to plan the layout of your fibers before you lay out any merino top on top. So in this case, I'm saying, what colors do I want on my pillow? This is, who knows what this will become because it's so small. And just using your pre-felt, lay out your fabric and sort of plan your color theme before you get going. So I had previously felted this on the orange pillow, and the orange really sort of dirtied this color. So now I'm going to try this on the blue. I liked this on the orange. We're going to see how we like it on the blue. And I used this on both, loved it on both. So plan your layout on your pre-felt before laying down your merino top. And here I have for you some layout pictures. This is from the orange pillow, and this is how it was going to be felted. And then the blue pillow, this is how it's going to be felted. And then the difference between the two is the blue pillow, I did trim the top of each of those fabrics with a thin layer of merino top. So we will look at that layout together. Now, before we get started, I see there are some questions. So right up till now, I see Jean asks how many pieces are in each package, and there are 10. You're going to get 10 pieces of fabric in each package. Yeah. There's 5 color families, 10 pieces of fabric in each package. Am I too high?
A little bit.
I don't know where I got this chair. I feel like I'm sitting at an odd place. Maybe we raise that. I'm sitting very low now, but at least it's at the top of my head. Stephanie Laseco says, I have some open weave gauze type fabric. Would that work? It's a great question, Stephanie. And you're going to feel like we're a broken record, but we're going to say, make a test, make a test, make a test. But to answer your question and encourage you to try that, I brought with me, just real quick, a couple of things that are not what we're making today, and I'll show you this one. This was a gift from a felt maker in the UK who sent me a great big scarf, and this is made on an open weave cotton fabric. And look at the crazy fun ruching and texture she got in this thing by putting fiber in some places and not in others. And here's the back, so you can see there's no fiber placed on the back at all, but it has this incredible effect of pulling the fabric together by leaving these open spots. So this is absolutely a cotton open weave, and it's a shawl that someone made for me. This is an example of our Margolon silk, which is a very open weave, but it's fun to crinkle and ruche. This is the inside of like a big cowl. So that's fun to play with. And this is just another example of making a tiny sample to see how do I like these fabrics and this fiber together. That's the most important thing, is we want to encourage you to play. So a piece of silk gauze on the back, different panels up top, just to see how do I like these fibers. So today is a great opportunity to make a little sample and see how do you like this process and how do you like how the fibers and the fabrics work together. Okay? When Vicky says, when you go looking for silk, how do you know they are silk? And Vicky, it's a really great question. So when I go to the thrift store, I always go to the dress section and the skirt section. You have to go when you have time. And I go to the scarf section. Those 3 sections I'm definitely going to go to. And in a dress, very often, if you look, or a skirt, if you look, start at the bottom hem and look at the side, that's where you might see if there's a silk tag. If it's been cut out, you won't know, but you're going to develop a hand for feeling it. And some polyester fabrics will work as well, not all will. I've seen big failures here in a class and big successes too. So the best thing to do is to make a small sample. If you have it in your own stash, you could try lighting an edge of it on fire and see if it goes out, because the cotton or silk will just not continue to burn. And you can also do a test where you sort of blow through the fabric to see, can you feel your breath on the other side to know if it's open weave enough. But like this one might feel too thick because I can't feel my breath on the other side, but it felt great. So that's not a hard rule. So have fun with that. What else? Do you need a sample before the actual project, whether the background color will show through? You should expect some of the background color to show through, because that's what's binding the fabric to the fiber. You need those two to come together. So you don't have to make a sample. Look, your pillow face can be the sample. You can say, I'm just going to felt this thing, see how I like it and how I want to use it. You might want to make it a table runner. You might want to make it a journal cover. You might want to sew it into a bag. You might want to turn it into a pillow. So you can treat these larger blocks as well as the small block as your test pieces and see how do you like them. But you should expect some of that base fiber to come through, because that's what is pulling the two together, holding them together, felting them together. Nuno felt. That's what it's doing. Okay. Can you use silk from ties? Charlene, I would really suggest that you test, because very often the silk from ties is a very high mommy. Mommy is noted by an MM next to a silk, and the larger that number, the denser that fabric is. And really that is a measurement of silk density. When you see something that says 5 mommy, it means that a bolt of that fabric, if it were 45 inches wide and 100 yards long, would weigh 4.5 pounds. So the bigger that number, the denser that fabric is. So test, test, test. Okay? Do you need to fold the silk edges in? No, you don't. So we're not going to do that. In fact, why don't we just jump right into this tutorial right now and let's see how this thing is done, and we'll watch for your questions as we go, including troubleshooting. Okay, we have laid out our workspace with a towel, bubble wrap, and then as I said, room temperature water. Did we show this a minute ago? We did. We showed a towel. I think we showed this a second ago. We're going to charge our water with our soap and just get that dissolving in there while we get everything all set up and ready. We're rolling with a bubble wrap, and I'm going to put some mesh over the top and then our plastic sheeting. So sorry if that's a repeat, y'all. Now let's get our project going. I'm going to lay out the pre-felt so that one side slightly overlaps the other. Again, one is PFL and one is PFM. They felt great together. So just do a slight overlap there. And we are going to apply our fiber in a single layer using a herringbone layout. So for my big pillowcase, I used less than an ounce of wool, and also on the small one. So to do this herringbone, it's like this X, if you will, that kind of really X's at the tail end. And you just alternate the angles. So a 45-degree angle this way, and then the opposite way. One way, and then the opposite. So it's like little X's that kind of connect at the bottom. And this allows you to get one layer with the fibers going in different directions. We're going to cover the orange with the orange and blue with the blue. I have made these fabrics with the fiber only going, the top fiber only going in one direction, and it feels like it felts more slowly because there's less fibers, you know, mixing up, going in different directions to grab. So I think this is the fastest way to get a nice single layout for quick felting. But also you're going to plan for about 30% shrinkage here, and you have a little more flexibility in fabric when you use this herringbone layout versus the traditional crisscross or one-way direction. I do like to trim the edge with just a little perpendicular layer to kind of neaten things up. That's optional, and you could do it in the beginning or you could do it at the end. It doesn't really matter. Audrey asks, am I using the pre-felt at its full thickness? Yes, on both counts. I'm using it at its full thickness. So that's the complete layout of our fiber. We're just doing a dry layout of fiber, a single herringbone layout, and trimming the edges. Now, we used this herringbone layout on another project, and that was our cowl a couple of years back, where we just made a little neck warmer, and I brought one in here that I'll show you in a little bit. So if you want to practice that, that video goes a little more slowly on how to do that, and you might just give it a try. It's real easy to do. So I'm trying to understand, there's some questions. Somebody asked, what does the microns mean? When we talk about fiber, the micron count talks about, think about it as the diameter of the fiber. So the smaller the number, the smaller the diameter of that fiber. And a finer fiber is going to have a lower number. A finer fiber is going to be a little easier to nonofelt, but it's also going to feel a little better next to the skin because it's a little bit softer. Also think about it, usually they're going to have the barbs on the scales on the fiber aren't going to be so coarse. So yes, I don't understand Jan's question. Would you split a thin bat for a similar adherence? So, if you want to lay down like I think, Jan, are you asking if you wanted to use like a short fiber bat? You could lay down a short fiber bat on top of this if you like instead. But I like the little longer, straighter fibers of merino top for doing nonofelt, especially for wearables or durable things. They tend to pill a little bit less if you use a merino top instead of the short fiber bat. So to do your own pillows, my suggestion is that for your very first one, when you're working with whatever pre-felt you have, whatever merino top you have, and whatever silks you choose, that you make a sample first, and then you will have an idea of what your shrinkage rate will be. And you want to felt this down as much as possible so that you get a good shrinkage, you create a nice durable fabric. Plan for about 30%, but give yourself a little more room than that for your pillows. I think you can overstuff a pillow, so if you want to do a 14 by 14 pillow form, plan for a 14 by 14 end fabric, but you want to cut it to that, so plan to make it bigger. Plan to let it end up a 15 by 15 so that you have room for the warbly edges. Okay? Let this be your sample piece. Once your fiber is all laid out, it's time to lay out your silk fabrics. So in this case, we're going to take a very straightforward approach, nothing fancy, no embellishment fibers, cut our silks and lay it right on top of our merino top. I'm not even going to cover the edges with any fiber. We're just putting silk on top of fiber. Now it's time to wet out our project. So I like to cover it with our mesh. Use a ball broth to kind of sprinkle the water around and not dump a big pile of water on there. But I always like to wet and soap with my sponge. A sponge helps you press water and soap in and air out, but you'll notice that the sponge also kind of grabs back a little bit of the water and keeps you from putting too much water on a project. If you start in the middle and you work your way out towards the edges, then you'll get a nice distribution of the water rather than jumping around, because you want this entire project as flat as possible without disturbing your design. I don't like to smear personally. I like to pat and press. We are making sure everything is fully wetted and soaped, and we're also feeling for evenness. If you feel divots or dips or uneven areas, then you'll know that you might need to go back and add fiber somewhere. But ideally, hopefully you've already done that in the beginning and filled in. I think we showed that visually. Once it's wet, you're going to peel back your mesh and make sure everything underneath is laying down. If you did use embellishment fibers, they might stick to the mesh, so make sure and peel those loose. And you can tidy up the edges if you want, but they will take care of themselves in the rolling process. We're starting at about a 15 by 10 layout once it's wet. It's always bigger when it's wet. And now we are covering this with our plastic. I like to add a little water on top so that you can smooth it all out again, make sure all the air's out, and you can even rub and massage it a little bit through the plastic. I want to pause here just for a quick second. So Judy asks, would rayon work as well? I can't guarantee that. I have to go back to what we were just saying and saying I've seen people with polyester fails making a great big huge garment and the same person succeeding with a different batch of polyester. So the best thing to do is to make yourself a small test piece, because fabrics are going to vary from manufacturer to manufacturer, and you might not like how it performs, but it might not stick to your fiber, so the two might not join together. So definitely always make a test piece before you do that. And the sponge, someone asks, Rocky, what type of sponge? Just a regular old non-dyed kitchen sponge. Just a sponge. I just like to use a sponge. Does the silk shrink too? Yes, Edwina, we will look at that together, and all silks shrink differently. And then if wrinkles in the sari appear, can you reposition? So Rocky, yes, before you rub and stuff, and even it's not even attached, just from the little bit of rubbing we've done, you could peel it back. You might disturb some of your fibers, so beware of that. But sometimes it's fun to wet your base first and intentionally crinkle your silk, which we have done in other tutorials. So we didn't do that today. We're keeping it super straight and simple. But yes, if they've just wrinkled on you or the corners peeled in where you don't want, then you can just fix it right now. Okay? All right. So our project is getting nice and wet. We're rubbing it just a little bit. I don't want to use aggressive tools myself. We're using room temperature water, gentle tools like bubble wrap and a pool noodle, because we want this to go slow enough that the fibers have time to migrate through the fabric and not just felt to themselves. We are rolling our package 10 minutes from each side. Set a timer, listen to something fun, watch something fun, and just roll your package so that it's nice and round, and roll it for 10 minutes from each side. What you'll see is that your fibers are going to shrink in the direction they're laid out and in the direction they're agitated. In this case, our agitation is rolling. So you want to treat all edges evenly, and rolling is a very uniform method for felting your items. Feel how it's progressing. Just after those 40 minutes of rolling, we have a piece of fabric we can handle. The fabrics are laying down and starting to bind, and I'm going to squeeze out only the excess water. I'm not wringing. We're taking away some of the space that the water takes up, and we're going to give our fibers an opportunity to get even more entangled. So I roll it up in the bubble wrap only at this point, and it's not real tidy. You know, it kind of wants to come unrolled. So don't be surprised if you need to unroll and re-roll it a few times. But roll it try at least 20 minutes, rolling and unrolling it, rolling it just on itself in the bubble wrap for the moment, and then see how it feels. You're going to notice that your fabric is really forming a dense structure. You can feel it as you're rolling it between your hands, and we're going to roll it on itself so that the fibers get even closer together. Really, we've reached the point where we're past the initial felt, and now we're fulling. Fulling is where you further shrink the felt and get those fibers closer and closer together. So you've noticed that you're going to be able to shrink your project even more from this phase forward. We'll do a measurement, and then in a minute here we'll get a real measurement of where we are now. So, does it matter if you roll fast or slow? Joan asks. Joan, I don't notice that. I have a friend who does full rolls, and she does full fingertip. Oh, let me jump in here. She does like fingertip to elbow rolling, whereas I normally kind of rock and roll, or I just roll like this. I don't like put my whole body into it or anything, and I don't really notice it. What I think is each person is going to find what works for them. Some people roll with their feet. Some people use a rolling machine. So the most important thing is that you start to learn what a felted fabric really feels like so that you recognize it. I think there's a lot of ways to get to the end point that we want to get to. Kevin asked, Rocky asked, do you put pressure on your rolling? None of this have I put any pressure on at all. Nothing that would cause any hand strain, finger strain, elbow strain, wrist strain. I don't find that I really need to dig into something unless I'm making something thick. But when you're making something thin like this, a sewable fabric, it doesn't really take that much pressure. It's more about the action of the agitation. And you see we're using very gentle tools. I didn't even pull out my wooden pole. Kevin says, can you stack the silks on top of each other? Kevin, definitely test, because all of these fabrics have a different weight and a different makeup, and you would be asking, what you could do is you could put a layer of silk, a little layer of fiber, and a layer of silk. So you could do that to test and like let that be the glue, because that will help it migrate all the way. If you just put silk on top of silk, there's a chance that it won't migrate all the way through both, but that really has to do with the density of the silk fabric that you're using. Do you put a piece of silk on back for wearables? You definitely can, and a lot of felt makers do, because anything that's rubbing or getting abraded is going to pill. So just like this tiny little sample that we had here, this has got a silk backing. So it's definitely an option to do. And most felt makers who make wearables that I know do start with a base layer of silk fabric, and then that becomes a foundation layer, and everything else is built on top of that. Can you use a palm washboard instead of rolling? And can you use a sander? You can make wearables with sanders. You can make, you can use sanders in the felt making process. I don't use tools all that much. If you use those tools, try them, but remember when you're working with silk fabrics, you don't want to be overly aggressive in the beginning, because what will happen is this fine merino top wants to felt to itself, and you want the fibers to migrate up through the fabric. So don't rush the beginning stages, at least, and test your own tools. Whatever it is that you're using, just test them, and test them on small pieces before you go making yourself, I don't know what, a big shawl or a big coat or something. Do you ever turn the piece around and roll it from all sides as well? Brigitte, we did show that. We turned it clockwise. So in the initial rolling, upside down. I do turn it upside down, but in the initial rolling, I didn't. On the initial rolling, I only rolled from the top, and it felted so fast. So when I'm after that, I'll roll it top and bottom. Yes. Okay. Pam says, how do you use a pre-felt with this? Pam, pre-felt is the base layer. So
Do you have to?
Oh, you can just use merino top. Pre-felt is just fast. No, you can just use merino top. Absolutely not. How do you clean it like this? Can you wash it? Hand wash it, Tammy. Hand wash it. You handmade it, hand wash it. How about that? Handmade, hand wash. Okay, so once you have that felt fabric really shaping up, and you feel like it's got some integrity, I like to do fulling in a variety of ways. It's just further agitation. This I call wadding. What other people call it, I don't know. And then throwing or tossing. All of my actions are very gentle. I'm not being very aggressive at all. I'm really just dropping it onto the table. I'm not throwing it or thwapping it or splatting water even across to my table mate. And my project's pretty dry. So here this measurement is still not quite as small. I'm not sure that's quite as small as we ultimately got. I felted it just a little more after that. So I think we've answered a lot of the questions. Oh yes, I do want to answer this question. So Frankie says, does the sari silk dyes bleed into your felt? I want to warn you, these saris come from every sari could come from a different human, right? So every sari, 10 saris in your pack could have come from 10 different people. One might have been overdyed. Maybe they're not. Are they stable with your soap, with your conditions? You need to test that. So I did have one of my saris bleed. It didn't impact the base fabric at all, fiber pre-felt, but if you're working with white or a lighter color, you're really going to want to test that. Even here in the studio, I've had accomplished felt makers come, and we've had red dye running and blue dye running, so you're going to want to test with their stuff, not mine. So you're going to want to test that stuff. Can you needle felt designs on after it's felted? I don't personally like to needle felt into the silks because the silks tend to run, but in this case they are bound with the fiber, so maybe if you're going to do some little embellishments, it would be worth checking it out. Well, let's pull out our piece. So after you've fully felted your piece, what you want to do is go ahead and rinse it. Rinse that piece, just run it in your tap water and get all of the soap out. And then we put it just in a bowl of water with a little splash of vinegar. Vinegar helps cut all of the soap, and it also helps bring the fibers back to their natural pH. Notice that we don't wring a piece when we're finished. You can roll it up and you can squeeze it, but wringing would tend to distort it. The felt could still be malleable at this stage, especially while it's wet. So let's get all of that out, and then we can roll it in a towel. Sorry, big noises. And get the rest of the moisture out. And so you're going to get to see the finished piece with me of our sample here. So I'm just squeezing as much water out as possible. And let's open this up together. And here is our little piece. So let's measure this. It's still wet. It'll kind of shrink in a little bit more once it's dry. But wet, we started at 15 by 10. So this is straight up 11 inches across. And it is about 8 inches. It's a little bit shorter here, a little bit shorter here, but 8 inches in the longest part. If you really wanted to get this part smaller, you could roll just this part and spot full it, you know, and get that little part to shrink in a little bit. Do that from the front or back. But I'm pretty happy with this. I don't know what project I'm going to use it in, but I would like to iron it, help get it a little more dry. So I've turned on my iron over here. Now when I have something like this, I do prefer to iron it from the back rather than from the front. So I'm gonna just start putting some heat on that right now. And I don't need to steam it, that's for sure, because there's plenty of moisture in there. You'll notice that when you steam press a piece like this, that it really starts to take out those little bubbles on the back. So in this case, it's the back, but this could be an area that didn't have fabric on top of it. So, but when you press something, it's going to give it a really nice polished look. I want to understand your question, Robin. How do you keep the blocking lines of the merino from moving? Okay, I think you're talking about on the other pillow, on the blue pillow, the blocking lines.
I think the crosshatch merino. How do you keep it from kind of migrating, the orange from the blue?
Oh, this? No, I wonder if she meant, Robin, can you restate your question? I want to know if she meant on this blue pillow here. So I'm just going to let this dry. Oh, this is very interesting here. So see how this fabric looks a lot brighter because it's orange on orange, and then here it looks a little darker and a little moody because, and it's not dry yet either, but the blue is coming up through the orange, so that's really interesting. Here the orange is coming up and brightening this a little bit, and I like this much better on the blue than I liked it on the orange. Now, Robin was asking, how do you keep the blocking lines of merino from moving? And I wonder if this is what you meant, Robin. I'm not really sure. But when you put your mesh over the top and you start wetting and you're very gentle and very gradual, then that's going to help you just sort of seal that merino top down while it's there. But also, we're not doing a lot of rubbing and moving this stuff too early on because the silks underneath are slick. They're a little more slick, so that's why I like to kind of red it and soap it, and the soap acts like a nice glue and kind of, you know, sticks everything together. But that's why I spend more time rolling than just rubbing and agitating on top of these soft silky silks. if you cut this up for making other projects, does this silk fray? And it's really going to depend on how much fiber, Fiona, you have here bound with this. So you might get some straggly threads out of the edge, but I didn't have any problems with my pillows. At all. When you design your pillows, though, I want to encourage you, to leave some perimeter here so that you don't get too much of your fabric off into what would be the hem area, although you're probably going to have some, and it really just depends on when you're doing your own pillows. Like here, the fabric goes all the way into the hem, and I was happy with that. Mostly I didn't want to lose too much of this, and I had a real nice perimeter left here that I was able to cut off. You can see there's no fabric under here at all. So leave yourself a nice perimeter. Up here, some of my fabrics are in there, and up here, some of my fabrics are in here. So people are asking how in here, but I really like it all. I mean, I like how it came out, and I left a little room. Notice that this room kind of closes up a bit too in between those blocks. How much bigger should your project be? Well, we've talked about that a little bit, but let's talk about that a little bit together. So here, this piece started out at 15, and 11 divided by 15 is 73%. I don't know if you can see that. 73%. This is 73% of its original size. So that's getting really close to the 30% I was saying. But if I want to sew this into something, if I want to put a piece of fabric on here, I'm going to want at least a 1/2 inch margin. So you're going to want, if you're sewing it, at least another inch on each side, but you have to go from the smallest divot, where that's going to be. So plan for it to be 40 to 45% of size so that you have room to cut it. So just going to have to pull out your calculator. Peg says, what a lovely journal cover. Thank you so much, Peg. Look, this is really fun, y'all. What I want to encourage you to do is just play and try. Something this small, I'm sure you can think of something to do with it, even if it's to cut it up and turn it into a greeting card or make it into a little eyeglass case if you sew. I don't know. There's lots of things you can do. I wouldn't use this as a hot pad because I wouldn't want to get my spaghetti sauce on the silks or the wool, as a matter of fact. But this is really easy and a non-threatening project. So we didn't do anything fancy. We didn't do any fancy surface design. We just played with silks. How thin can you go for wearable art? Kevin, make your first thing and then you might answer that question. So a nano-felt scarf can be very thin and drapey. Something like our cowls are very, very thin. So this cowl, how you can get a thinner fabric and something with more drape and more flexibility is to put less fiber. So in this case, we have a silk sandwich, if you will. The inside is a base layer of silk gauze, and then we put a single layer of merino top down, and then we added all of our embellishment fibers and fabrics. It's very thin, it's very wearable, and this is a free project on our YouTube channel. It's like a sport weight cowl, but this wouldn't hold up as a jacket, but it might work well as a blouse or a tunic. You wouldn't want it for a pair of breeches, too thin probably, but maybe a very lightweight, probably would be great as a very lightweight skirt or a special wapser. So I think the best thing to do is to make some fabric and see how you feel about it and how wearable it is for the purpose that you want. How secure are the silk pieces with handling? Cat lover, these things are on there. They're absolutely on there. So I do want to tell you though, let's talk about troubleshooting real quick in case your stuff doesn't stick. So let's look at this, and just a real quick tip, if I were felting with you side by side. So when I was felting this piece, all of these are little test pieces. This piece was a little bit pesky. If you look right here, you can see that this piece at this little section could potentially get roughed up over time. Now I don't have children in my house, and this will not get beat up at my house, but because it didn't lay down all the way, during the felting process, there might be a tendency to say, that's not gonna stick. If you have a really thick fabric and you're concerned about that, trim the edges with wool like we did on the blue pillow. Or when you start to reach the pre-felt stage, when you start to get everything holding together, like after my first rolls, you can just come and put a little line of stitching in here and continue rolling and see if it's going to anchor it down. Or you can get to the end, you can add some decorative stitching in here and just have fun with it and let it become part of the design, which I think would be great. Even just some running stitches, even across the bottom there, would be interesting and unique. So I was really impressed with how all of the fabrics I chose laid down without any additional binding. Never did I go back on this pillow and add anything to it. So I would just say have fun with that, enjoy the crinkles and all the migrations, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. Okay, so Joyce, I think, says she's thinking to make a table runner. That sounds really fun. What else? Is there anything else I can answer? Did we answer?
Not yet.
We answered everything.
We've been on fire.
I'm really glad. So look, y'all, this is easy, easy, easy. It's as easy as any of our artful felt fabrics that we've made in the place. Let's call it your artful nano felt fabric, but make a pillow, make a journal cover, make something and share it with us and let us see what you come up with. So if you enjoyed today's project, I hope that if you do felt it, you'll tag us at Living Felt. Let us see what you made. Leave a comment down below if we didn't answer your questions or we didn't call you out. And yeah, we have everything you need. Remember, you can grab this little free download if you just want to see how to make the pillow cover. And so once you get to that point, I just want to show you my pillow cover without the pillow in it. And here's a look at the finished pillowcase. I've done a very deep envelope pillow on this one, almost a complete overlap because I like to overstuff my pillows. But I want to show it to you for those who are just a little intimidated. I'm using regular thread that I normally sew with, which is like 100% polyester Gutermann. I used a 1/2 inch margin and I trimmed the corner edges so that you can get a really nice turn. You're just gonna cut that off right there, and it's super, super simple. And felting with, sewing with a good piece of quality felt is very satisfying. Just go slow if it's too thick in some places, but I like that really deep pocket so that I can bulge out my pillow and stuff it as much as possible. When you turn your edges, use something gentle. Try not to use a knitting needle that's too pointy or anything like that so you don't poke holes. But give your pillowcase a really nice steam press so that you get it all crisp and beautiful, and then stuff it to the max. Like if I'm doing a 19 by 14 inch pillow, I like to make the pillowcase that size and not bigger so that it looks really full. And just take a minute to pounce and fluff and pat and tug on that pillow so that you fill every corner. And look, now you have a piece of like one-of-a-kind art for your house. I mean, how often do we buy something generic? I have generic pillows here, of course, or you can pay, I don't know, a lot of money for a one-of-a-kind artful pillow, but you can make your own, and it's super easy, easy, easy. Robin says, where's the download? Follow the link in the description to the supplies page, and you can grab the download. The video will be there. You can watch it back there. You can grab that download right there. It's free. Now listen, we have some prizes to give away, but that's not all. We have some very exciting stuff coming up. Many of you are students in our school, and we appreciate you being there so much. We have been, we have been working very hard this year to bring you, happily and joyfully, to bring you some really great classes. Jordan is my partner in the school. She does all of that fancy video editing work. And we have 2 brand new classes coming out. We're doing the early bird launch this Friday. So if you're not a member of our school, it's feltingtutorials.com. Hint, hint, the website's right up there. feltingtutorials.com. Lots of classes, free classes. Check it out and see if you even like learning like that. The first class I want to tell you about is Kimberly Pulley's Felting Blossom. It's how to make these gorgeous artful felt portraits. She does some Nuno felting in there too. Uses some nice fabrics, and she has such a way with coloring a face. So this one is called Blossom. It's by Kimberly Pulley. And tell us about yours, Jordan.
This is Bright and Beautiful Macaws by Sonia Oswalt. Very common friend that we've had here a couple times, and she is demonstrating both wet felting and needle felting in this class, and she's going to show you options for making these beautiful blue macaws and some options for making these red macaws too. The whole background and all the process that she has to make this really give a lot of depth and a lot of bright colored.
Yeah, they're so fun. So in both of these classes include wet felting and needle felting in the classes. And yeah, this one is very this one, it does not come with a kit because there's so many skin tones and so many colors, but you get complete supply lists that are created by the instructors. And for Sonia's, I think we're going to have a limited time pre-order only for either like the red macaw or the blue macaw. So those will probably be only available in the first round of classes as they're released. So watch for those. So join the school if you're not already. Go to feltingtutorials.com, set up your account, take a free class, make sure you can access the courses and you understand how they work. And then these classes will go live on the following Friday. Yeah, so there's always early bird sales. You can take advantage of them in the beginning and get like what's probably usually the best price that they ever are is in the early bird sale. So Kimberly Pulley
And Sonia Oswald.
Yeah, check these out, y'all. Okay, fun. So thanks for being here today.
I'll take
Put
it
these
for
in
you.
a safe place. Oh, we're going to do prizes now.
Okay.
So Jordan has been writing down names as you've been participating in the live chat, and thanks for all your great questions. They help everybody, absolutely. And
I've got mine.
they help us too. You got one? Okay, I'm going to get one too. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
All right.
I've got Stephanie Laseco.
Oh, fun. And I've got Jackie Burns. So thank y'all so much for playing with us today. Thank you for felting with us and just including us in your week. Jackie and Stephanie, y'all win either a, I have them here. Either you can win one of our Sorry Party packs, or you can try one of our wet felting activity packs, which includes pre-felt, merino top, and some decadence fibers, luster fibers to put on top.
Nice.
All right, fun. So until next time, y'all, if there's a particular tutorial that you want us to teach, leave a comment down below. Tell us what that is, and I promise we'll put it up in front of the Fairy Council. Until next time, we'll see y'all next week. Be extra good to yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.